I'm Connor Old, and welcome back to another episode of Old Oscar Countdown. And we are back another week to talk about 5 categories that I'm worried about, that I'm unsure about, where whatever you pick, there will be no safe choice for the 2026 Oscars. But if you're new to the channel, welcome. We are on our 10th season of predicting the Oscars. We've been doing this all the way since October, trying to predict, what was going to get nominated. Now the nominations have come out. I did my first video post-nominations last week where we talked about 5 guaranteed winners, categories you don't have to worry about because we know Jessie Buckley is going to win for something like Hamnet. Now the kind of sister video to that video is what's 5 categories that I'm unsure about, where there are no safe picks. 5 categories that I think you should be kind of hesitant and not become dogmatic with some of your decisions, because sometimes, particularly in the acting races, we have this idea of what's going to, win, and then when it gets proven wrong, we still stick with that kind of fake and false idea of a winner and are ultimately proven not true. So you have to be still kind of flexible. There's still a lot of key award shows coming up. So I'm going to be talking about 5 categories that I think are still unsure, and kind of walk through my thoughts and explain why I think they're unsure and what are some different permutations and possibilities of what could happen in the coming weeks here. Still, a couple months now from the Oscars, or I guess a month and a half or so. So still got lots of time left for lots of things to happen. And of course, I'm going to be covering it all on this channel. And as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know if there's any categories that are really bothering you that maybe we haven't talked about in this video. I'd love to hear that. And before we get into things, I just want to say at the top that this is a really interesting year in that a lot of the top categories I think are still up for grabs. In years past with this video, we've talked about really small, kind of boring categories, but the 3 categories I'm going to be talking about today, and you can find the timestamps in the description below for my thoughts on them, is Best Picture, the big one, both the supporting acting races, supporting actor and supporting actress, and then Best International Film, and then Best Editing. So 3 kind of major categories in the 2 acting races and the Best Picture race I still think are up for grabs. Now, it may be the kind of boring chalk answer that we think, but I do think there's so many possibilities here that you shouldn't be should be hesitant to say one battle after another is for sure winning Best Picture. I'm not going to go there just yet. But let's get into things. Let's start off with my thoughts here on the Best Picture category, starting off why I think it's unsure. And that's because right now I think for a lot of people, including myself, the race comes down to One Battle After Another and Sinners. And I still think there's an outside chance of a Hamnet surprise. That's a movie I think is a potential winner at BAFTA, so you always want to consider that. But let's, right now, at the sake of this video, let's just talk about One Battle After Another and Sinners. And some people will tell you that it's not a race and that the One Battle After Another is going to be an Oppenheimer-style frontrunner and she's going to win everywhere, and that still may be the case. Although I think there's a real path for Sinners to win Best Picture. First off, you have to recognize it got 16 nominations, the most of any film at the Academy Awards. Now, not every film that got the most number of nominations ended up winning. We saw that in 2016 with La La Land, but it is a huge sign of support for the film. It indicates that the Academy, more than any other branch, loves Sinners. This is the only place that nominated Delroy Lindo, for example. The Academy, the Oscars, the people we're trying to predict, we know, based on their nominations at least, that they love Sinners, they love the movie. So that's a real strong chance of it potentially winning it in general. The strong side for One Battle After Another is that it's been winning everywhere. It's the most critically acclaimed film of the year, even more so than Sinners. Frontrunner to win for DGA, likely screenplay winner. It's got a lot of paths going for it. But then the alternative is, well, Sinners is also a likely screenplay winner. Has at least a couple of technical nominations that it's probably going to win. So One Battle After Another maybe has more of the acting support, the above-the-line support, whereas Sinners has more of the below-the-line support, and where that divide is going to be. But when trying to predict Best Picture, of course, it's helpful to look at some of these precursors. So the Producers Guild Awards, 7 out of the last 10 of their winners for Best Picture went on to win Best Picture at the Oscars. A great precursor. Whoever wins PGA almost always wins at the Oscars. So we definitely want to take a look at that. Then we look at DGA and we look at SAG. And I think those are split right now. So if you look at DGA's historical accuracy, it's about 5 out of the last 10 years. The winner of the Directors Guild Award, also their movie wins for Best Picture. And then the same thing with the Actors Awards, or SAG, Best Ensemble. 5 of the last 10 years, the winner of that award went on to win at the Oscars. So, what are the potential possibilities here? Well, I think Paul Thomas Anderson is the frontrunner to win for Best Director and therefore at the DGA Awards. So let's give One Battle After Another that movie. But then the other side, the Actors Awards, Best Ensemble, I think Sinners is the frontrunner to win right now for that category. Overperformed at that nominations award show, has more of the traditional, I think, ensemble of all the actors acting together at the same place. Where One Battle After Another, there's lots of number of characters, but Leo and Sean Penn don't really interact all that much, or Benicio del Toro or Sean Penn don't interact. It is kind of like a one-on-one type of a film rather than a full, true ensemble. So then if you assume that Sinners is going to win for Best Ensemble, well, what does that tell us? It tells us that One Battle After Another wins an award in which 5 out of the last 10 winners, so it's a 50-50 shot. And then Sinners wins an award, the Actors Awards, in which 5 out of the last 10 winners ultimately wins the Oscar. So it's a 50-50 shot. So then it comes down to something like PGA. What's going to win PGA? And we know the Producers Guild, we know that they just traditionally like movies that make a lot of money and that are bigger blockbuster type films. And Sinners is more of that profile than One Battle After Another. It made more money. It's an original idea. There is a sense of kind of maybe we want this to be the future of Hollywood. Great storytellers with original ideas. People can still show up to the theaters and make a lot of money for. It's maybe a hopeful pick there. And then next thing you know, you get an Actors Award Ensemble win, you get a PGA win, and then Sinners is a frontrunner to win for Best Picture. And I think where the key category ultimately will be the Best Supporting Actress category. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But if Tiana Taylor continually wins all these kind of groups and the Actors Awards and BAFTAs, then that's a really good sign from One Battle After Another, because it's super helpful to win an acting award and in terms of your chances of winning for Best Picture. 7 out of the last 10 Best Picture winners also won an acting award, including every single year in the 2020s. So if we think One Battle After Another is a serious contender, it needs to win, I think, one of the 2 supporting acting categories. Similarly with Sinners, it doesn't have really a frontrunner in any of the acting categories. It's probably its best chance, I think, would be Wunmi Mosaku in the supporting actress category, because I think this race is still wide open. And if that's the case, then you have an acting win as well. So the scenarios I'm looking at is, of course, the Actors Awards for Ensemble. Sinners needs to win that. And then, of course, maybe winning PGA will really be helpful as well. But I'm also looking at the supporting actress category. If, let's say, Sinners wins for Best Ensemble and Wunmi Mosaku wins for SAG at the Actors Awards, I think there's a real strong sign of like Sinners is a real contender. Sinners can potentially win for Best Picture. I know a lot of people think it's locked and done and over with, and One Battle After Another is this kind of juggernaut. I don't think so. I don't want to kind of ignore the 16 number of nominations. The point I stand right now is, okay, Paul Thomas Anderson gets the DGA. I think if Sinners wins the Actors Awards, it really comes down to PGA. And whoever wins PGA is going to win the Oscars, most likely. Or you could say the supporting actress category. Whoever wins that category is going to win Best Picture as well, because that's the film's best chance at kind of an acting win, a screenplay win. And then picture, I think this is a much tighter race than a lot of people think, and I'm really excited to see it kind of unfold. But another category that I think has no safe pick is the supporting actor category. There's a bit of a difference between what people say online and the betting sites. So the kind of front runner on the betting sites, I think, is Stellan Skarsgård for sentimental value, and yet the kind of sentiment online, I think, is maybe a Benicio del Toro or maybe someone else. And it makes sense because there's a lot of different variations and permutations of potential winners. Stellan is the front runner right now, I think, because A, he won the Golden Globes, kind of cementing himself as a potential winner. B, sentimental value was very well liked by the Academy. It overperformed when it came to nominations. And then C, he is a typical kind of supporting actor winner. The older actor who's never won before, who's a legend and has been in so many great movies and has worked with so many people and has a lot of respect. But Sentimental Value is a movie that maybe appeals more so to international voters. We saw the Actors Awards, it got completely blanked, and that's going to hurt Stellan Skarsgård's chances, the fact that he's not nominated at the Actors Awards. Because when we talk about predicting the acting categories, we look at 2 places, at BAFTA and the Actors Awards. Usually if you win both of those, there's a high likelihood that you're going to win at the Oscars, and if there's a split there, there's going to be some intrigue on Oscars night. And some years SAG is more accurate, and some years, BAFTA is, SAG, now the Actors Awards. And that's a huge kind of blow to Stellan Skarsgård's chances in terms of your confidence on Oscar night. Even if he wins the BAFTA and he's got the Golden Globe and he's the front runner right now, there still probably would be a little bit of concern in the back of my mind because he's not going to have the Actors Award win. He maybe doesn't have as much support from American voters. There's a little bit of concern there within the Academy. And I think the way I'm looking at things right now is whoever wins the Actors Awards needs to have a great speech to be really in contention. I think there's a possibility for Benicio del Toro. He's the critics' pick for Best Supporting Actor. He is someone that has already won before, but I think is very likable. So I think in the same way maybe like a Jamie Lee Curtis ended up winning Supporting Actress for Everything Everywhere All at Once, because people saw her speeches and saw how likable she was and how much they liked her and how much they liked the movie and her character. In the same way, I think Benicio del Toro, if he gets on stage at the Actors Awards and is very charming, and that's right near the end of Oscar voting, but still a few days left when those award shows happen. Maybe he charms off people and they remember, oh yeah, I like him, I like Sensei, I like the film, I like his character, I'm going to vote for him. There's a chance there. That being said, it's notable that BAFTA is before the Actors Awards this year, so maybe Stellan Skarsgård wins there, and then all of a sudden he's the clear frontrunner because he won the Golden Globes, and everyone's just going to kind of follow suit and go with Stellan. There's so many different options here. I haven't even talked about Jacob Elordi, who's the other person who's won at the Critics' Choice Awards. He's the only other supporting actor who's actually won something. It's notable that I think the Actors Awards voting is happening right before the premiere of his new blockbuster movie, Wuthering Heights, which is going to be a big deal and is going to make a lot of money. So maybe there's a sense of like, hey, he's the new hot kid. He's the next big movie star. Let's give him an award and want to celebrate him there. So there's lots of kind of debate to concern and options. I think the way I'm seeing the race right now is Stellan Skarsgård needs to win BAFTA. If he doesn't win BAFTA, there's a real threat to his chance at winning Best Picture or at winning Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars. If he doesn't win at BAFTA, and then let's say the Actors Awards goes with the same winner as BAFTA, let's say it's Jacob Elordi, then I think Jacob Elordi is the frontrunner and will eventually win. But what I think is likely going to happen is Skarsgård is going to win at BAFTA, and then if Benicio wins at the Actors Awards, that's almost a good thing for Stellan Skarsgård because it indicates that there's no clear number two because Elordi won at Critics' Choice. Now, if Elordi wins at the Actors Awards, it indicates to me that there is a number two. That the critics thought it was Elordi, the Actors Awards thought it was Elordi, and there is this kind of a battle for the supporting acting category. But regardless, this is going to be a very competitive category going into Oscars night just because Stellan Skarsgård is not nominated at the Actors Awards. So if he wins at BAFTA, then it makes things a lot more complicated. If he doesn't win at BAFTA, maybe this race clears up a bit, but I have a feeling that he will win at BAFTA, and then it's going to be a real concern, I think, going into Oscars night of whether or not he will be able to pull off the feat, and you'll never be 100% sure. There is no safe choice in this category. And then speaking about the other supporting acting category, the Best Supporting Actress category, I think this is in a similar place where there's potentially 3 or 4 possible winners. I think there's a very real possibility that Amy Madigan wins at Critics' Choice. Golden Globe goes to Teyana Taylor, and then the last 2 acting kind of award shows that we have to look at and base our predictions off of could go with 2 other different performances, and we have 4 separate performance winners. Let's say Wunmi Mosaku wins at the Actors Awards, and then Ingrid Itzhak wins at BAFTA. There is going to be a lot of intrigue and mystery. Now, I think right now the frontrunner is Teyana Taylor for one battle after another. Not only is she in one of the year's best films, but is in a key part in particular of those first 45 minutes and has already won an award at the Golden Globe. So we know that she is well appreciated and well celebrated. The question then becomes, this is going to be a sweep. Is she going to win at the Actors Awards and win at BAFTA and have that kind of a broad support? Notably, she's the only person to have been nominated at all these key critics and industry groupings. So the question then becomes, all right, if it's Teyana Taylor and she wins the Actors Awards and BAFTA, the race is over. She's going to win. But there's a real possibility, I think, that Amy Madigan wins at the Actors Awards. And if she does, well, then we know she's not nominated at BAFTA, so someone else is going to win at BAFTA. What's the case going to be there? And I think some people are thinking, okay, it's Teyana Taylor because she's going to win at BAFTA and she's going to win at the Actors Awards and it's going to be boring. But at least on betting sites, she's actually not the favorite at either of those award shows. It's Amy Madigan for the Actors Awards, and at BAFTA, it's actually Inga Ipsar-Lilius. So there's a real possibility, like I mentioned, where Teyana Taylor wins no other awards, and yet she still may be the frontrunner for supporting actress. Or people can convince themselves of the narrative of Amy Madigan and the fact that she, had this great performance and this great kind of comeback role, and she hasn't been nominated in so many years, and she wins the Actors Awards and doesn't win a BAFTA because she's not nominated, but when she gets nominated at the Oscars, she's going to win. But then there's concern for me where her movie was a sole nominee. It was a contender in editing and casting and screenplay and maybe makeup. It didn't get nominated in any of those categories. So does the Oscars really like weapons? That's another question of mine. And then who knows if maybe Inga Lilius wins at BAFTA and the Oscars we know really like Sentiment of Value, and then maybe she's the winner, but then maybe she splits with someone like an Elle Fanning. In the way she didn't at BAFTA. There's all these different variations and possibilities. We've mentioned the potential Wunmi Mosaku win. We've mentioned, maybe an Inga Lilius. I think right now the frontrunner is Teyana Taylor, but she needs to win one of the two awards at the Actors Awards and BAFTA to really kind of solidify her position. But I think going to Oscars night, because there's probably going to be, in my mind, a split between the BAFTA winner and the Actors Award winner, we're going to be really unsure about who's going to win. And it will be maybe a question of how strongly you believe in one battle after another's chances at Best Picture. If you do, and it wins a DGA and PGA, maybe you think Teyana Taylor comes along for the ride. If you don't, maybe you leave her off her predictions. But going to the Oscars night, I still think the supporting actress race is really up for grabs. The only way it's not is that Teyana wins for both the Actors Awards and at BAFTA, which at least on betting sites and things like that has a low probability of her winning both of those awards. So keep that in mind, that there's at least maybe an anticipation and an expectation for a surprise. Okay, now to end off a couple of smaller categories that I still think are unsure going to the Oscars night. The first one being Best International Film. And that's because there are two films nominated in this category that are nominated for Best Picture. So those are probably the two likely films to ultimately win in this category because they have that broad support. Enough broad support to get nominated for Best Picture, likely enough broad support to ultimately win in this category against other unnominated Best Picture films. And I think the logical thing would be, all right, Sentiment of Value is going to win, right, Connor? It has more nominations than The Secret Agent. It got in for director. It got in for best editing, 2 key awards, screenplay, all categories that The Secret Agent did not. So it's going to be Sentimental Value, right? Maybe, but maybe not. Because my question then becomes, last year, Emilia Perez had more nominations, was nominated in Best Director, was nominated in Best Editing, and yet it didn't get in for Best International Film. It went to I'm Still Here. Now, I think you can explain that away. That was a controversy over Carlos Sofia Gascon and kind of tweets that arose during the kind of post-nominations period, and people felt uncomfortable voting for that. I understand that. But then what about the Golden Globes this year? It was just an accident, had more nominations than The Secret Agent. It was nominated for Best Director, where The Secret Agent wasn't. It was nominated for Best Screenplay, where The Secret Agent wasn't. And yet The Secret Agent beats out It Was Just an Accident. You may say, Connor, that was the Golden Globes. That's not the Academy. And that's a fair point as well. But it is an indication where things change and the race changes. And when you have nominations at the end of January and then middle of March of the Oscars, essentially 2-month period between the nominations and the winners, momentums can change. People can see more movies people can like or dislike certain films, or more recent movies have stayed in the top of people's minds more frequently than movies that were released earlier in the year. These are all things that end up happening, which is what I think happened at the Golden Globes, where at nominations time, they loved It Was Just an Accident, and the more people in that group eventually saw The Secret Agent, they realized maybe they liked certain parts of It Was Just an Accident, but they liked the whole of The Secret Agent. And I think there's going to be maybe a potential similarity here at the Oscars, where the Academy can maybe acknowledge and recognize we like the acting of something like The Sentimental Value. But maybe from a movie as a whole, we like The Secret Agent. And then there will be some voters, this may not happen on a mass scale, but there will be some voters that go, okay, I have Stellan Skarsgård winning for Sentimental Value. That's my kind of a win for that category. I don't have any category where I'm rewarding The Secret Agent. And I love The Secret Agent. I nominated it for Best Picture. So I want to give it an award somewhere. I want to give it a win somewhere. I want to spread the wealth. And if that's the case, then maybe The Secret Agent wins in this category, even though it doesn't technically make sense. Because this is not a technical award necessarily all the time, where you can count the number of nominations. Because A, things can change from the nominations time to the Oscars. We saw that with I'm Still Here just last year, beating out Emilia Perez. And in the same thing with this year, with not the Academy, But the Golden Globes, this film, The Secret Agent, beating out the more nominated, it was just an accident, so it can happen again. And the front runner right now, the logical pick, is still Sentimental Value, but I'm going to be keeping an eye on how the two films kind of perform and some of the news reports and anonymous ballots from Academy voters from the two films here, because I do think there's a real possibility where maybe The Secret Agent, it just gains an estimation over time, and the more people see it, and it ultimately wins in this category. Really interesting one to kind of look at early on in the night. And then the other technical category, the below the line category I wanted to talk about, is best editing, because I think this is a very fascinating category as well. So you have the front runner right now, which is One Battle After Another, and then the number two possibly, which is F1. Now, we don't have any big industry prizes just yet. The two ones I'm going to be looking at are the BAFTA win and the Ace Eddie, the Editors Guild Awards. That being said, we'll never be sure, because just last year, Anora didn't win at BAFTA, didn't win at Ace Eddie, actually lost out to a movie like Wicked, and then wins at the Oscars. So this will be a very key reward show early on in the night at understanding One Battle After Another's chances. The last three Best Editing winners ended up winning Best Picture. So we see a connection there, not only in terms of nominations, but also in terms of wins. So if One Battle After Another wins Best Editing, that's a very good sign for its chances at something like Best Picture. But if F1 wins early on in the night, that could be a strong sign at that maybe there's a potential Sinners win, or that maybe One Battle After Another isn't as beloved as we all thought it would be. This is going to be a very key category, I think, and understanding even Best Picture. But then in terms of winning this category, One Battle After Another is still the front runner because it's a long movie. We usually see Best Editing winners be at least 2.5 hours long, because for a lot of people they think of Best Editing and they think of most editing. So when you have long movies, you have a lot of editing to do, and there's an appreciation there. It's also an action movie. That's the type of movie that usually does well in terms of wins and nominations in this category. So, and then you have the fact that One Battle After Another is such a well-liked movie that it may just have that general appreciation. So you have a real strong chance of one battle, but I don't think F1 is completely out of the race. It's a potential winner at BAFTA. It is a movie that I think the strength of it is probably its editing. It's a flashily edited piece in terms of all those action sequences and those race sequences. We know it's a front runner to win for best sound, and historically there's a strong connection between the sound categories and editing categories, in which both winners usually overlap. We've seen that with the Bohemian Rhapsody year, or the Dune year, or the Sound of Metal year. Now, in the past few years, we haven't seen that overlap. That being said, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. So the fact that F1 is a front runner to win in sound, and we know there's a correlation between sound and editing, maybe it wins for editing. We know it's the Best Picture front runner right now as well. So there's lots of kind of pros and positives on that side of things. But One Battle After Another is still the front runner to win for Best Picture. The three last Best Picture winners also won for Best Editing. It is a long movie. It is an action movie. There are lots of things going for it. But even still, from the fact that Anora last year didn't win at BAFTA, didn't win at the Ace Eddie Awards, and did win at the Oscars, makes me go, all right, let's say One Battle After Another wins the Ace Eddie Awards and BAFTA. Are you still 100% confident it's going to win the Oscars? I'm not. I won't be, because we've seen that the Oscars sometimes go their own way and their own different path, in particular with the editing category. So always want to be kind of cautious with that sense, and keep an eye out on potential winners and potential upsets. Regardless, so I do think it will be a kind of key category early on in the night in understanding how strong One Battle After Another is. Is it really going to win Best Picture? And then even just F1, how well liked F1 is. Is the Academy okay with just giving it maybe something like sound? Or do they want to be like enough to give it sound and editing, and who knows, maybe even something like visual effects? Fascinated to see what happens there. But that's about it. I hope you enjoyed my video and my picks. Please let me know what are some categories you're unsure about, and maybe some of the debates that you're having personally. I'd love to hear that in the comments down below. But that's about it. Until next time, stay tuned.